All right, welcome back. Thanks for being here. Today, our quick hit topic comes from Katie. This is a great question, Katie. Thank you. Do you need to be a good storyteller to be a good leader? Steve, let us start with you. What do you think?
I think good leaders are generally good storytellers. And I think that they move in that direction of leadership because they can tell a good story. That's not to say that people don't move into leadership through other routes. I just think that if it's a normal organization where people are promoted from within, the leader tends to be a good storyteller.
What do you guys think? Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree. Oh, sorry, Karina, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, no, I agree. I think it's a natural trait of certainly some leaders. And I think for those who, because presuming that we mean by a story, we're talking about as much sort of a story of the future almost. So it doesn't even just have to be a story of something that happened. Here's a story about so and so, it's just painting a picture, I guess, clearly, and, stringing things together coherently and that kind of stuff. But I think any leaders that aren't good storytellers need to have a really good sense of when to step aside and let someone else tell that story in order to achieve the end goal. If you sort of
mean. Definitely. Describing that vision of what the future looks like is a really essential change management tool. And I don't think you can be a leader in any organisation now without the ability to describe the future, because you need change to happen.
Yeah, so Steve started us out by saying he thinks that good leaders generally are good storytellers, and it sounds like you've come around to where I am. I've been thinking about this since you brought it up on Tuesday, Katie, and I think yes. I think to be a leader, you have to be a good storyteller. I don't think it's, well, most of them are. I think you have to be a good storyteller, to your point, because you have to be able to have that vision. So then that if that's the case, if you have to be a good storyteller to be a good leader, how do you improve your storytelling? What does that look like if maybe you don't feel like you have the ability to share your vision effectively?
Well, I'm going to pitch in here and say that the thing that I think holds good leadership together, along with storytelling and a degree of creativity, is an understanding of the learning styles or the preferred communication styles of the people to whom they're telling that story. Now, if we reckon that maybe 3/4 of the people in the world have a strong visual sense, having a storyteller, a leader who can talk about the vision for the future and look where we're going to be in a year's time, they're going to bring people along with them. Whereas somebody who is at odds in terms of their own learning styles with the bulk of their staff or their people, their teams, they're not necessarily going to gel quite as well. And they're therefore going to, I think, create a little bit of friction.
And then does that make them less likely to get promoted?
Well, yeah, I think we have to be aware that leadership is a very broad brush to be talking about individuals. Some people inherit leadership. Some people inherit a business, perhaps from a great storyteller who's built it up from nothing. Will naturally work their way through from having a team of 5 to a team of 50 to a team of 500 to 5,000, whatever. And they do that on merit. And that merit has to, I think, be backed by creativity and by storytelling.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, go on, Katie. No, that looked good. Go with it.
I think it's really interesting. You're talking about visual storytelling. And we kind of had some thoughts of finance managers not being able to do that was one of our examples, wasn't it? And I realised that I know some finance managers, but they talk numbers. So the storytelling is not in that visual form, but they do incredibly well to become finance directors because they can talk a story with numbers. And just your thoughts there, Steve, of in the right place and how you tell a story.
Yeah, understanding your audience. You know, anybody who has ever been on stage as a performer of any kind will put their hands up and say, you have to know your audience.
Yeah.
So get back to my question, how do you learn to be a better storyteller? What does it mean to be a storyteller? What do you need to include? How do you share your vision in a way that makes sense?
I think it's all about the I was going to say the hook. I don't know if that's the right word, but know what your point is, and then make damn sure that you nail that point at the right time. If the rest of it, almost, people will forget most of the story. They're not going to remember it and then tell it from start to finish to the next person they speak to. They only remember the point. So I think for me, make sure you're super clear on what that point is, and then however the rest of the story goes, deliver that point with as much clarity and impact as you can.
And is the point the goal or the why for the goal?
Whatever you want to communicate. I think if you're telling a story as a leader with a view to getting people behind the why, then that needs to be the focus. Whereas if it's just to get them clear on where we're headed, then that needs to be the focus. But I think that there again, back to what Steve said, it's if you've got to know what the audience needs to hear as much as what they want to hear, I guess, in order to determine what that point is.
Yeah.
And how to get better at it? I think it's feedback. It's visual and verbal feedback. So you've got to practice. You've got to have people nodding their heads in that way, so you know that you're getting your message across. But also, you have to practice. I've never seen anyone do it really well straight away. It's like sport. You train for it.
Yeah, my husband's a graphic designer, and he always says you have to get the crap graphic design stuff out of your brain so that you can find the good one. And I think that's true for storytelling too. You just have to go through it. I know my first speaking engagement, the very first one I ever did, paid public speaking, was horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. I can't believe they paid me for that. And, but over the years you get better. I think that's true for storytelling too. You get better at it if you pay attention to the feedback.
Yeah.
I think even a good storyteller can get it wrong. I think in the context of leadership, it's different to sitting in a pub and regaling people with a story and making people chuckle along. I think if you're going for something that has an impact and a particular, again, point that you're going to hammer across, that's almost a different technique. It's a different style. So I've certainly known some leaders who believe themselves to be good storytellers, and for the most part they are, but in a completely different context. So they haven't adapted their style to fit this new context, which is business or whatever it happens to be.
What makes the story different? Is it the point? Is it that you're not just going for the punchline or whatever, the telling the past, but creating the future? Is that what makes it different?
Yes, it's identifying the mental velcro. What's going to stick in the minds of the people that you're leading, that's going to encourage them to pay attention to what your vision actually encapsulates or encompasses for them, so that they are invested in the story to follow your vision. And you need to have that mental velcro that just sticks the idea to their brain.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I think great storytelling captures your heart velcro, if we're using the metaphor.
Yeah.
How do you think you get good at that?
I spent a bit of time working with the Professional Speakers Association as a member, and some of the workshops that they delivered for professional speakers were great in that they told you, taught you, showed you how to identify what your audience actually needs in terms of the emotive, the heart velcro, if you like, as you say, Katie, what they need, and the non-verbal feedback that comes from them. Now that only works, I guess, if you're in an environment where you can see the whites of their eyes. Yeah. An audience is all well and good. You have to, and you can sense it. But when it's remote, when it's, from the hierarchy, from the office at the top of the building, whatever it is, it's a lot harder, I think, to be that great storyteller. And therefore, it needs all the more practice and all the more dedication.
Yeah.
You can't shut yourself off and say, well, I don't need to tell stories, or I can't tell stories because I can't put them all in one place. That's a cop-out.
So I think the conclusion we've come to in this short, quick hit 10-minute conversation is that, yes, if you're going to be a good leader, you have to be a good storyteller, and not just a good storyteller of the past, things that happened that you can regale, but of the future and where your vision and where you're going. And that is, it is learnable. It is something that you have to learn and practice. I think that's what we've come to.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. It's always fun to have these quick conversations with all of you, and we'll do it again real soon. Thanks.
Cheers, Robyn.